Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Answering your questions once again from the wrestling community. AskSCW is here once again. Taking your questions from Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. All options should be coming up on your screen right now. You can even drop a question here on YouTube. Make sure to leave the hashtag AskSCW. Tagging also helps as well. And I'll make sure that your question is included in the next video. Of course, go and check out Wrestling Customs 24/7. Go and check their website out as well. You can follow them on social media as well. Custom-made championships for WWE, AEW and more. All of them look fantastic as well, by the way. Do go and support them. And as well, they've got a great deal going on as well for this Sunday. I think the deal goes on till tomorrow. If you buy 2 belts, you get the third one absolutely free. Absolutely fantastic. So go and check them out now. Let's go straight into the questions this week. Over 20 questions. So let's start off now with our first one. We're going to start Impact Wrestling with Tire World Order. And we're starting with Si's second question, because arguably probably the biggest news of the weekend. Thoughts on Ken Shamrock and The Rock coming together for Shamrock's induction into the Impact Hall of Fame. How cool is that? What is John Dwayne doing in the Impact Zone? I've always wanted to do that. I'm really happy about this news. I mean, 2020 has been full of surprises. Most of them have been awful, but this one is such a great bit of a surprise. It's such a great bit of news. Ken Shamrock asking Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson if he would get involved with his Hall of Fame speech. He said that he thought that was the best work of his career, and who could argue with that? I think that back in, of course, the Attitude Era, they had some great matches back in 1998. So I'm really pleased that this is happening. I'm really pleased that The Rock has said it's going to be a video message, I believe, that's going to be sent over. That's going to be used for the induction. I think it's great all round. It's great for Ken Shamrock. I'm so happy for him. It's great for Impact, and I do think it's brought a lot of attention and people being reminded that Impact Wrestling have got their biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory, taking place on that weekend. The Rock is going to have some sort of role in it because he will be featured on the pay-per-view. They always show the Hall of Fame induction part of it. Of course, The Rock's part that he's going to do, even though it's going to be via video, will be shown there. It's an excuse. People will have interest and people will check it out. I think that this is fantastic for Impact Wrestling. I think it's all round. This just ticks the boxes. And for me, I'm a big Dwayne Johnson fan. His acting work, his career, of course, as The Rock throughout the years was absolutely unbelievable. I just can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see him back in some form of wrestling environment. For me, that's where I call The Rock home. That's where he's at his best. It's where he began. It's where he made his name, and it's where he is going forward. And also, selfishly, I mean, I am an Impact fan, but also I'm a WWE fan. Rumors have been running rampant over the last week or 2 weeks, or even longer. The idea of The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. The Rock has even quoted about that match himself, that match would make the most sense for him to come back for, him to put Roman Reigns over. Yes, not a fan of a spoiler idea, but the thing is, the concept and the idea of it just really excites me. I really want to see him back in that wrestling world and that environment. And this feels like almost like that first step, which, for also being, as I said, an Impact fan, I think it's great for them. I think it generates buzz, excitement, and, it's going to be featured on the show, as I've already said. So I think it's going to be fantastic all round, and just very pleased for Ken Shamrock. This is an exciting moment in wrestling, and I think that this could prove in time to be very big news going forward. I think that he could help the buy rates for Impact, but also means that he could be back one more time in WWE. One more question from Tire World Order then, and how excited are you for Impact Plus specials? Back every month, starting with Victory Road, now filmed in the studio environment instead of live. Do you think Impact will tie these specials to main storylines more than in the past, like they've done with the announced title match, which of course is Eric Young against Eddie Edwards, which I'm surprised that was put on Victory Road. Not because of the fact that I'm not keen on seeing this match on that environment. It's more the fact that I thought Eddie Edwards was shoo-in for the main event area for the Bound for Glory show. I thought, as being champion of Slammiversary, I thought that they would use this as a platform to build for Bound for Glory. Because some people are more casual fans and they may check out the big shows rather than going with the weekly stuff, and it's a big shock when your champion wins on one show and it's not even the title match the next one. But it gives people an excuse, like you say, to be checking out more shows, and they should have continuity. There should be, Victory Road special or whatever specials they're going to do next. There should be a reason for fans to be enticed, and the best way to do that is to link TV storylines into that. And of course, it can be perhaps the minor ones. Maybe we'll start having shows like Emergence. We'll have, like we said, these monthly specials, and there'll be a reason for people to check out Impact Plus, which will help benefit their streaming platform as well. I know for myself that I would be more invested seeing those shows, which I wasn't as invested in the past. Now that I know that there's a match like this there, I would be more inclined to check it out. So from that perspective, I think it's a good move from Impact Wrestling. And like you said, from a studio environment, you've got more time to work on these shows, more time for editing and stuff like that if they're not live. I think it could work really well. Sometimes with the empty arenas, it can feel a bit, it can feel a bit empty in places. And a studio, I mean, you can add a little bit of technical with noise and stuff like that. You can just make things look better, maybe just eliminate the fan element. I mean, if you look at NWA's Power, of course they had the fan section there, but it was only on one side of that studio looking in. Everything else closed off in there was, almost walls, somewhere for the commentary table, somewhere for people to go and do their interviews. It just kind of felt shut off from the people, and it didn't really notice that there was no people there. And I think that that would be a great platform, almost like what Ring of Honor is doing as well at the moment. They've kind of done a great job with how they've presented their products, where you can't really tell there's no fans there. And I think that is the key going forward, especially for companies that are of this size. It's good for them to show that you can eliminate the people factor, where WWE had kind of now as the Amway Center, and they've kind of got those Zoom screens. You kind of feel with the sort of people there, the Performance Center really took an element of what made WWE so important away. And with Impact, I still feel it has its importance, but when you look in there, sometimes it does feel quite bare, and I think that that's why things like Wrestle House was really beneficial for that show, because it took you away from that ring presence for a while. And Impact has always been very good at that, and we've spoken about that in previous videos. So I think for this can be really great for them if they do this in this environment, and yeah, tie storylines together. I think that this is a win-win going forward for Impact. I think that it certainly will help their revenue with Impact Plus, and I think that there'll be continued interest, because the growth of the fan base has definitely risen since the anniversary. They've definitely done well to do a buzz and to keep certainly more fans invested. I do think some of the momentum has gone off a little bit, but for those who have stuck around, I think those people have truly benefited, because they've seen some great weekly TV. The likes of Eric Young has done some fantastic work since coming back, and I've really enjoyed Impact, and I hope they can continue this momentum going forward. Let's get another Impact question in there, shall we? 1 Minute Wrestling Review asks, would you like to see Rich Swann win the World Championship? One day, yes. Bound for Glory, no. I don't like to see a championship be a hot potato, and I like the idea, though, that Rich Swann feels like he could win the championship. So I like the believability of the fact that when you've got champion and challenger, that them going against each other, anything can happen. But Eric Young has only been the champion now for a matter of weeks, and I think he's got a reign and momentum with him on his side. Some of the work he's done right now, I think, has been the best of his career, and I'd like to see him carry that championship for a lengthy period. Now, it's not something I would have said on a video that I would have posted, say, when he first joined the company. I felt that maybe he needed to have time to become champion, but he's coming, like a house on fire, and he has been a star from minute one. And I think that Rich Swann, he's someone that could be in the main event, but I think he needs to do more momentum and more experience to be in the main event long term. I think that he was the surprise return at Slammiversary. The retirement angle has been fantastic. It certainly feels like a main event angle, but I don't see Rich Swann as champion at this particular time. I think Eric Young is someone that could carry the championship more. I think if this rivalry was to go on for 3 to 6 months, or was to be revisited at that point, and Rich Swann has more time in and around the main event, beating some of the main eventers or people that would be in that bracket, I think then you would feel a different story perhaps going forward. It makes, like I said, that 3 to 6 month period, I think you'd feel differently. Rich Swann would feel more believable as the world champion, where right now I do feel there could be a few people that could be better candidates for the role. I mean, EC3 is coming, who was Impact Wrestling at that time. I think Moose is doing some great work and should be in and around that main event area as well. Ace Austin was someone that was around there, but I did think it was too soon for him at the time. So I mean, Impact is kind of building that main event area right now, and I think Rich Swann is a great candidate. I just think Bound for Glory, it's just a little bit too soon for him. On screen, the biggest talking point this week has to be Retribution, so let's touch on a couple of questions there. Coming from George Jones, who's got a great interview for SCW this week as well. Was talking to wrestler, commentator for Big League Wrestling, Josh Hayes. That interview's on the channel now. Do go and check it out. George asks, how would you book and save the Retribution stable and angle, please? Well, is it possible to save it, I think, is the biggest question at this point. It looks increasingly difficult after Raw this week. You look at those names that these guys have been given: T-Bar, Mace, Slapjack. I mean, how can I even say these names and somehow keep a straight face is beyond me. But literally, they have been laughed at so much in different ways and forms throughout the wrestling community, and even, according to WrestleVotes, backstage in WWE itself. So it looks difficult. It looks like it's a battle that's uphill for these guys from this point onwards. I kind of wish, and something that actually Josh actually touched on in the podcast review, is something that I thought actually made good sense, was the fact that the commentators kind of made these names, and maybe it would have been made more sense if they would have been their regular names, because if they had their regular names, there would be more chance that they would want retribution, because Mia Yim has been in wrestling for so many years. It's almost been passed over for those opportunities of people being called up before her. You could argue, she's been around for a long time, where Bianca Belair is still young, could develop more in NXT, and someone like her has been overlooked, and the fact that her partner Keith Lee was called up and not her, well, she wants retribution on that. Shane Thorne is someone now in Retribution feuding with the Hurt Business. Well, he was under MVP's guidance just a few months ago, so now he was kicked to the side, back on NXT. There is a reason. Dominik Dijakovic, well, look, he's a big guy. How can you not notice him? Dijak was, someone that was an absolute star in the making and just overlooked. All these things kind of made sense. Mercedes Martinez, Mae Young Classic, wasn't signed. Was there a second time? Still wasn't signed. She had to go to AEW. Not that you want to say that, but she was in one of their casino battle royales, and then she come back to WWE. Then she come to NXT, and then she was pulled off TV and brought back. It just feels like there was lots of keys of why these people would have Retribution in mind, and why they want to take WWE from the inside out. The problem with the name switch now is the fact that they now have Twitter accounts, and let's be honest, they have been probably the most entertaining thing this weekend when it comes to looking at Twitter accounts. T-Bar in particular, Dijakovic has been awesome on there. Of course, Reckoning, which is now Mia Yim's name, she's been pretty good as well. But I mean, T-Bar in particular, calling out Chris Jericho as well. When Chris Jericho gave him shade, he threw it right back, and it's been really entertaining just to watch these guys on Twitter. They've been absolutely fantastic, and almost been laughing at themselves, but also proving as well, even with Shane Thorne, Slapjack has had more investment and clicks on YouTube. People check out Slapjack more than it did Shane Thorne. Shane Thorne's match with Bronson Reed had only like 60-something thousand views on YouTube, where Slapjack had over 2.2 million. So it was almost just that culmination. But they do still have a little bit of a, can we say, a bit, there's just something about this that just doesn't add up, and it really comes from the Raw strategy. T-Bar even tried to explain things on Twitter, which now, if I've got the tweet coming up on the screen for you, WWE offered us contracts because it was financially cheaper than all the security guards we kept injuring. We signed the contracts to pay our hired guns to do our dirty work. Our goal is to destroy our current employer, WWE Retribution. Now, I understand that this is trying to find a curveball around everything that's happened, because it doesn't make sense that WWE would just give them contracts to begin with. It's so bad with what's happened here, and it just doesn't make sense. If you went in and trashed your office, do you think you'd get a raise? No, you'd get fired. So if anything, it's not what you would do. But we're here, it's been signed. What can we do to save the angle, which is the question you've asked here today. I think we need to have, and we're going to link this on to your second question, which was, which two male superstars would you add to Retribution and why? I think adding more members here, effectively for other people, probably isn't great, but for adding two more people, I think would really help this. And the reason is that which people could be key, because how did they get contracts to begin with? It doesn't make sense of why WWE would do it. If it was an inside job, it would make more sense. Now, this isn't a superstar, but he's someone featured on TV every week, and we've spoke about him as well. Adam Pearce makes the most sense to be a part of Retribution. He's awful at having security stop Retribution getting in the building every week, so much that now they have contracts. Adam Pearce, this would make sense for him to be a part of this, almost like an effective GM and instructor, and he could be instructing on behalf of somebody else. Now that would involve then a higher profile superstar, someone who's been there, who feels they've been overlooked or not treated right in WWE's main roster for a long time, calling on these NXT stars, giving them the awful names. That would help make this make a lot more sense. Now, we have discussed The Miz previously on our when we've done podcasts before, and I think The Miz would be a great shout for it, because The Miz is someone who would look for retribution within WWE. Hell, this guy is MJF for the last 10 years. All right, MJF, you could say, is probably on a level of his own, but it's WWE's version of it. The Miz should have been a multi-time world champion. He does a safe working style like MJF. He has been the champion. He's been the guy that's done all the PR work and everything like this. He's done what the company has told him to do for well over 15 odd years, and he's had one championship run to show for it. He's made the IC title the most relevant title at times, and he's always been someone that's been thrown in and around on the undercard. He's always been someone that you've turned around and said, he's been overlooked. And I think a superstar like that would be good, because he's great on the mic as well. A mouthpiece, someone that could try and have direction and saying, look, I've been overlooked for all the years. I should have been further up. Not only do I want to destroy the company from within, the Miz's purpose of retribution is the fact that not only are they destroying the company, they're taking the championships as well, holding them hostage, with the Miz being the WWE champion. Now, it does seem far-fetched in some ways, because the Miz, some of his recent booking with John Morrison's material hasn't been great. Maybe there could be a superstar that's better focused. Maybe Kevin Owens or someone like that, who I've mentioned previously, would love to see in this role, because KO is someone that you look at him and say he's got to a certain point on the WWE ladder when he goes to grab that brass ring, which is a saying I hate, but it's perfect for this analogy. He gets to where he's in touching distance, and for some reason, someone, somewhere, always pushes that ladder, and he seems to come off and seems to have to go back to the start to build his way back up. It's happened multiple times. He was Universal Champion, but then from when he dropped the belt to Goldberg, ever since, he's just been stop-start on his career, and maybe he's the perfect person for it, because The Miz, who's been around for 15 years or so, yes, you could say, but Kevin Owens has always been someone that has been in and around that mid to upper mid-card area, trying to build himself towards that main event, and someone have a stable like that would work. He's unconventional as well to what a traditional, WWE superstar, how they would look towards the main event would be, which again is something that I'm against. I think, if you've got the right attributes, you can be towards the top, and KO for me has those attributes to be towards the top. He could go back to being the prize fighter, someone that he's got people to watch his back all the time, something like that. I think that things like that could try and help, and would really help try and save this along. A big name, someone that's been around for established a few years, to do that would help carry this. Adam Pearce would make sense of the loophole of how they got contracts, but for the love of God, the other names need to be better. I preferably would try and look to drop the names in some format. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if this angle can be saved. I would turn around and stress that now. But if you were to say to me, here's the pencil, do something, try and save it, this is what I would do. The rumour is that it's going to be working and revolving around Survivor Series, that they're going to have a big match. I would probably look to try and push that forward at this point, because Retribution needs momentum and they need it fast. Survivor Series is still, a couple of months away. They need momentum going in, so I would try and book them into some sort of big match at Hell in a Cell, and I would even consider it being the Cell match at this point, because it would be something to try and salvage that, and even Hell in a Cell at this point. Speaking of the Hell in a Cell, we'll come back to George's other question shortly. It's a great time for Austin Whitley's question here. With Hell in a Cell coming up, do you think WWE can restore the prestige in the match type? Well, WWE are going to have to do things quite desperately to do so, because in recent years, it really has become a lackluster match. And the fact is that this match is something that is supposed to culminate on the height of a big storyline, which WWE this year, to their credit, have 3 or 4 of them going on. So you could turn around and say, this would be a great opportunity to use Hell in a Cell. But for me, I've always been a fan of it where it's been, used somewhere sparingly, not as Hell in a Cell's pay-per-view. It's much better at WrestleMania if it's used somewhere else, rather than having this gimmick pay-per-view. I really want to see those, got rid of. I want to see proper names for pay-per-views to come in and not have Hell in a Cell anymore. And then it can come up, at halfway through the year at a Judgment Day or something, or maybe it's used still in October, but for Halloween Havoc, there's different ways and formats that Hell in a Cell can be used. I think that's a big problem. And the other thing is, the rule book has gone out the window. Now, the fact that we've had some non-finishes, I think just makes no sense for the Hell in a Cell. DQs as well, I hate also. And for those that say that it's only just happened recently, it did happen once in the Attitude Era as well, back in 1998. I believe, if I've got my records right here, I believe it was August 24th, Monday Night Raw. Kane and Mankind went to a disqualification in Hell in a Cell, which for me, I hate. I want it to always have a healthy conclusion. It should be something that's brutal. The toys need to come out to play. You don't need to go to the top of the cell every time. We need to differentiate the match in some formats, but I think it would be good if it was used for more of a purpose. Now, for this year, for Rey Mysterio, if he's good to go, him and Seth, that would be worthy of Hell in a Cell, and they could make that work. Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, maybe if the ambulance match doesn't do it, the next level up, well, Hell in a Cell could make that work. Roman and The Fiend could be in Hell in a Cell. That match could make sense because of the way that Roman's come back in and the way he's got the title. This way, there's no sort of escape, if you want, from everything. Although Roman with his triple threat match arguably could come halfway through the match because the Fiend had someone else to wrestle. The other option, which goes and ties into the last question, is Retribution. You could throw that in a month earlier. You could even do it almost like the War Games match, but with a Hell in a Cell environment. It's something different, it's something fresh, and of course with multiple different superstars then going in and around the cage, this could become almost like your Survivor Series type match where Retribution are against the team of WWE. And that would be quite exciting to see. You could see it against the Hurt Business, which would make sense. You could even have it where it's in War Games' first environment where there was 3 teams and you could have, you know, Retribution, you can have the Hurt Business, and you can have a team of WWE's top babyfaces on Raw. I think that that would actually add some prestige into the match. It needs a fall, or in this case, maybe if it's in a War Games fashion, maybe submission as well works as well for that environment. You know, you can't have these false finishes. I think that is what is really harming the Hell in a Cell. I even actually feel that the Red Cell as well sounds terrible. They wanted to freshen it up. I just think it's a bit much on the eyes. I'd like to see the old format come back with the classic, you know, silver structure. I'm personally more of a fan of that idea. And yeah, I would love to see the Prestige brought back, but I think over the last couple of years, Hell in a Cell has not become a pay-per-view that I look forward to. And I really hope that WWE can turn that this year, because like you say, this is probably a year where it matters most. I think this is make or break for Hell in a Cell. I think if it really goes, you know, it goes belly up this year, I think that they have to look to change it for next year and then bring it back to where it's sparingly brought up in places, which I would be more of a fan of anyway. But I think that if they can really knock it out of the park this year with Hell in a Cell, they would have an excuse to turn and say, no, we are going to keep that one going. Back to George Jones for his last question. He says, if you could make a babyface stable on Raw, who would you have and why? Really interesting question, this one, and this ties in with the Hell in a Cell idea now. So literally, this is a big Hell in a Cell idea, which is probably never going to happen, but let's go with it anyway, because this is a Q&A. This is my Q&A. It's my fantasy booking session, so I'm going to do it, damn it. It's still real to me. So, with babyface stables, it's interesting to do, because we've had multiple of them over the years, but in my humble opinion, I don't think we've seen too many where they're actually the main eventers of the show. I think you need that hurt business level of competitors in the babyface side, so you can have them facing against each other, perhaps as well with Retribution. So for me, I want to have an upper mid card, or someone that would be perfect around near the main event. Keith Lee would be my top guy of the stable. Now, I don't think he needs a stable, if I'm being brutally honest, but for the purposes of this and for this match, I'm going to go for that. And I think Drew McIntyre would be great in there, but as I said, he's the champion. I just don't think I've seen so many champions in that environment, but they're good friends as well, so you could link them together if you wanted. I want then someone that's going to be, you know, in a tag team environment and that sort of mid-card kind of area. I think Apollo Crews and Ricochet would be good, because as undercard guys, they would be someone that could benefit from having, you know, Keith Lee was already near up towards the top and seen as the big deal with the group. If Drew McIntyre was in and around that, those guys would get the rub, and would really get the rub from being in that environment in the cell, and being in that environment against the likes of the Hurt Business and going against the likes of Retribution. Particularly for Hurt Business as well, Ricochet and Apollo Crews would make a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, Cedric turned on them, so it has that natural feel for them to want to do that. If I had to throw one more member in there, I would go with Ali. Where's Ali gone? He's just vanished off TV. Ali is you know, he's got the tools to be a star. He's almost, you know, arguably someone like Ricochet can fly around the ring, do all these things, but Ali's a great promo. He's a great guy. I think that Ali could bring a lot to the table if he was given the opportunity. Now, it looked like last year that opportunity was going to come his way, but things just didn't quite work out for him. Didn't get that opportunity. And since he's come back, it's just not really quite tweaked or worked out for him. He had a good tag team going on with Shorty G, Chad Gable, keep him as Chad Gable. I'd love Chad to be brought to Raw. I'd love Chad to even potentially be brought on this side of the stable. I'll give you a final answer at the end. I'm thinking of more people as we go along. But with their tag team experience, would work quite well together. But as well, like you look with Ali, I just think he was rumoured to be the hacker. That never turned out. He's been on Raw, he had one appearance, and he just vanished. Don't know what quite happened there. And Ali has got a lot of talent. Would love to see him push there. But so let's try and give you like a final answer with these people here. I would go with Keith Lee as the top guys. I say Drew needs to concentrate on the championship unless he drops it at Clash of Champions. Of course, this is recorded before then, so if you're seeing it afterwards and the belt has changed hands, maybe you can throw Drew in. Feel free to. I'm quite happy to, because him, Keith Lee are meant to be good friends. We have ourselves there. Then Ricochet and Apollo Crews. I think that would be a tight 4 there. Maybe we have Drew McIntyre in it. That is going to probably be my final answer, because I think if you're going to have Retribution go towards the top end of this, it makes kind of sense in a way. But at the same time, you want to have your championship match separated on the card somewhere. So a 5th member to come in, I would have Ali come in as that 5th member. And you could see what they could go with from there. And I think it would be interesting TV if we could have gang warfare on Raw, because, we have 2 big heel stables at the moment. I think we need to freshen things up and have a face stable in there. Maybe, if there's the draft, keyword, if there's a draft, the Undisputed Era could come in. Maybe that would be interesting to see if we could have that babyface stable on Raw, because it feels like a couple of them are turning face. Maybe the others will down the line. We'll have to wait and see as and how that is planned and booked along the way. Speaking of the Undisputed Era, I tell you what, it just feels nicely with this question here. Know the Ropes podcast here. If Kyle O'Reilly beats Finn Balor at TakeOver, do you see the Undisputed Era pulling an evolution move on him, like how Triple H done on Randy Orton when he won the title? Great use of the gift, by the way. It's a great place to throw that in. It just fits perfectly for this Q&A, so thank you for that. We talked about that on This Week in Wrestling this week. Of course, we had This Week in Metropolis podcaster James Stilio7 come on the show. Of course, he's been helping out with SCW lots over the years as well. So thank you, James, for coming on that. And we discussed the idea of that. And it's something we could see happening, because if Kyle O'Reilly was to do it, it would make sense, because Adam Cole's kind of give the blessing, kind of, been on board with it. But I could see that jealousy factor creeping in because of the fact that he's been the leader and he would kind of be seen as the understudy to Kyle O'Reilly. And they have previous history in Ring of Honor as well of being, friends and being teammates and then being big rivals. It could happen in WWE. There's certainly, with Undisputed right now, it feels make or break of what to do with them. You either call them up to Raw and have them going in there with a hurt business and perhaps Retribution being on the babyface, easy for me, side of things. Or you can have them go on SmackDown, have their own stable warfare on SmackDown. Or you keep them on NXT and you change things up, and probably more than likely you break them up, because at the moment, the Undisputed Era, it's time to make new stars on NXT. We've seen the same faces in and around the top, and the one way to do that with the Undisputed Era will be to split them up and have them go off in a fatal 4-way, or you could have O'Reilly versus Cole, a way to make O'Reilly to be that top guy towards, all the takeovers going forward. Because you look with DIY back in the day, Ciampa and Gargano, you didn't see them breaking up, and when that breakup happened, it was like, whoa, that's a big deal. And the way that storyline played out, those two now could be on top of NXT for life. That's how it got them over so well. And they could do that here with Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. It certainly could be something that could be done. So is it something that can happen? Certainly it can happen. Will it happen is the big question. Well, I'm not sure at this point that Kyle O'Reilly wins the championship. So I don't think that it's something we could expect right now. But certainly if Kyle O'Reilly was to pull off the shock, was to pull off the victory and win the championship, I would have a keen eye on that next Wednesday on NXT, because they'd want to do something to build up for the December takeover, and I think that certainly would be great to do. I mean, Triple H is behind the pencil along with Shawn Michaels and Road Dogg, and they have great memories from that. They know it would be a great throwback. They know fans would have that connection, and I think that it would get a buzz, it would get interest, and it's something to keep an eye on, that's for sure. Jamie, the controversial one, Holmes, with our next question for us now, and he says, do you think we'll get a Kofi Mania storyline with Kyle O'Reilly? Because what's happening is similar to what happened with Kofi, what with someone getting injured and an unlikely contender arising. Well, that's a very good point you make there. We never saw Kyle O'Reilly in this position a couple of months ago, even a couple of weeks ago. I mean, Karrion Kross won the championship, was supposed to go on this big, lengthy month reign as champion, I'd expect, dominating the NXT division. All of a sudden, with the injury in the match, he's had to relinquish the championship. And now we've got Finn Balor as the champion, and now Kyle O'Reilly, #1 contender. It's come out of nowhere. What could happen here? Will we get that feeling with Kofi Mania? Of course, Kyle O'Reilly hasn't been around for 11 years and not have that opportunity at the main championship, but he has been in NXT for, 2017, I think he signed, and then he debuted later in the year at the SummerSlam takeover, the Brooklyn one. So, I mean, you look at it with Kyle O'Reilly, it still feels a bit too soon for me, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think he wins the championship, so I don't think so, no. But it's something that definitely you could carry on momentum. I mean, fans seem to be very invested and very happy that Kyle O'Reilly is in this position, and I think it will tease of what they're going to do with the UE going forward. They're either going to say, look, these guys are so over, even in NXT, maybe it's time we move them to Raw or SmackDown and let them have that growth on that roster where Kyle O'Reilly can perhaps be in that Kofi position, become WWE champion in, say, 2 or 3 years' time? Or do we break them up and we see how all of these guys do towards the top? Because I think Roddy Strong as well, I think will get a good following as well if he was to, go towards the top of the card. I think Bobby Fish as well. I think that you look at the UE and everyone just looks at them and they're seeing the stars. And the UE has gone very, very far in NXT, almost to the point where you don't know how much further they can go. So it's going to be exciting to see what's going to happen here. But as an early prediction for TakeOver right now, and I will give full NXT TakeOver predictions for NXT 31 on Thursday. That video will be dropping this week, so do go and check that out when that is uploaded. But at the early stage, at this point, I don't see at this moment Kyle O'Reilly winning, but I do expect them to have a fantastic match because Kyle O'Reilly has got likability factor. He is great in ring, and I think he's going to get his moment. I think definitely, if nothing else, he has the breakout moment, potentially of the year, at this TakeOver. We've got a couple more questions now from the Undisputed Era from Mike, Italian Habs Mike, who's asking for us now with Adam Cole tweeting, praising Kyle O'Reilly and wishing him well in his title match, but nothing from Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish. Does that further fuel the split for Undisputed Era? And he also asks, if we do get an O'Reilly, Cole versus Strong and Fish feud, how would you book it? And the third question, that ties in with the second question, how would I book that between now and April? And would we get Cole or Fish trying to turn on their partner? Fantastic. I love the idea of fantasy booking questions, and there's certainly a lot to dissect in the other one there. With Adam Cole, yes, he is praised, but as we've gone into previous questions, is this praise thinking, well, I'm going to show him the love now, but if he wins and I'm undermined and I'm now no longer seen as the leader of this group, what happens? And I think that we already touched that in a couple of questions ago, so I won't go into so much more detail of that again, but that could be an interesting twist where we have O'Reilly against the UE, and I think that would be the direction I'd want to see more, and then see them implode from within with the other 3 members as they're unsuccessful to take out an O'Reilly who has managed to, pull himself up, and maybe eventually Adam Cole then can win the championship back. I think that would be a better way to do it, but you certainly could get the 2-on-2 element. I think I would prefer Fatal 4-Way or the 3-on-1, but 2-on-2 certainly could be something that could happen because Adam Cole, he gave the 2 sweet to Finn Balor as well, so it feels like Adam Cole could be turning babyface, and I think that is probably the key with this question rather than O'Reilly, is what is Adam Cole going to do going forward, because there has been teasers as well that Finn Balor would love to do something with, Adam Cole and AJ Styles. I know AJ Styles wants to do something with Finn Balor, almost like that Bullet Club kind of stable as well, and that would be an interesting stable going forward, and I'd like to see that. We've done this earlier already with Retribution. Maybe that should be your babyface stable on Raw. That would be pretty awesome to see them 3 together. I think fans would be mad for it. I think they would love to see that as a formulation of a babyface stable on Raw. But looking anyway into things with those two as a 2-on-2 rivalry, I love the slow pitches with everything. I think that if you're going to do it, as I said, I don't think Kyle O'Reilly wins the championship, so I think that maybe that's something we don't need to worry about at this point. Adam Cole was given the support here, so maybe, just maybe, we can start seeing more slow twists and slow burns with this, because we've got opportunities here to, like you said, we can make this drag out to next year's WrestleMania TakeOver and make a really big deal here. So I would have these slow teases of where the Undisputed Era, Strong and Fish continue to do those heel moves, and O'Reilly and Cole feel reluctant to be involved with them to start off with, but maybe still kind of maybe think about it, or maybe they sort of say, look, no, guys, stop it, this isn't right, we've done that, we don't need to do that anymore, maybe, just maybe, we should do things the right way, we don't need to do it, we're a group of 4, we take people on 4 versus 4, or 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, we don't need to worry about all this gang mentality anymore, and it can get to the point where we get to the next TakeOver, maybe something happens where they're involved in the big match and they don't succeed. Maybe it's War Games, for example, and we see Strong and Fish snap and attack. Almost very similar to, like, the end of TakeOver when we had Ciampa turn or Gargano, that kind of style, that kind of shock impact that we had there. Maybe it's something, where we saw Dakota Kai really affect things from the start of that War Games match with Tegan Nox the previous time, even though the babyfaces still won that match, which probably they shouldn't have done in hindsight, but you know where I'm coming from with this, and you can see that that really then creates the divide. It really creates the problems, and we can start off with maybe O'Reilly wanted to take on Fish because that was a great tandem they had for many years. O'Reilly's team were both Strong and Fish, and they could play on that storyline as well. And it could be almost as if they're trying to convert. Maybe it's the idea of O'Reilly, look, we can get you back on our side, and we take out Adam Cole. And they could have that sort of twist with the storyline going forward. So a lot of mind games going involved with it, where we lead into the following takeover, and O'Reilly's got that big decision to make, and it turns out to be 2 versus 2. Would someone want to turn on someone in the end? Maybe they might. Maybe the heel side would be the more likely to do it, because you turn around and say, well, it's almost like a common goal for Cole and O'Reilly. They're kind of happy to continue as a tandem, but at the same time, they look at things and say, but we can do things on our own, but we've got this common goal here to really, disband the other members of UE, and Strong and Fish maybe turn on each other at the end when they lose the rivalry, and then we really see these guys go their own directions, or the Fatal 4-Way, and then we go the direction. Maybe the Fatal 4-Way would culminate at the WrestleMania one, that WrestleMania takeover, and then those guys can really go off and do their own thing from there. And I'd turn around and say that definitely at least 2 of them would be with Colt in the main event scene. I would see the other member, I will name him. I think Bobby Fish would go to the mid-card. I mean, Bobby Fish is probably the older member of this group. I could see him in the North American Championship picture, but I can see Strong, O'Reilly and Cole being in amongst the championship picture. Next question coming from Dylan Ketchum asking, do you think the NXT TakeOver will take place at the Amway Center in the WWE Thunderdome? Now, had we not had the COVID outbreak, or the second wave outbreak as we've had rumoured in NXT, which I think has actually changed a lot of plans going into this takeover, and some of the writing on what was on the TV show this week, I would have said it was a good idea. I think it would have broken up the regular NXT to the takeovers, and I think that it would have been a nice feeling for takeover, because right now takeovers for me have felt a little bit less special. I think they've done a great work with the the entrance ways and stuff like that, but TakeOver is missing its biggest ingredient, which is the fans. It's the people. It's what makes NXT what it is. So if they could have been in the Amway Center with people on Zoom, I know it still wouldn't have been the same, but I think it would have just put it that little bit more special for NXT TakeOver, and I would have liked to have seen that. But I don't think it's going to happen with that outbreak. I just don't see how WWE can risk that at this particular point, because if it's affected the NXT roster, it could also affect the main roster as well. There has been rumours going around that even tonight's match with Bayley and Nikki Cross could be in jeopardy, of course, because some of the filming for the Bayley and Sasha feud was done in the Performance Centre, and then the outbreak happened. And there's even rumours of how that could have affected Bayley, although she was on SmackDown this week, but it has been rumours with Nikki Cross as well. So let's wait and see what happens with that Clash of Champions tonight. As for next week, I think it's going to be from the PC. I hope eventually they can get it to the Amway Centre and get back to doing it how they did before for previous takeovers, but this one I think is a takeover too soon. Mark S. of our next question now. What do you think of Asuka defending Raw and countering Retribution? Matches with Mia Yim and Mercedes seem more compelling than the heels they have now. Saying this as Shayna and Nia are locked in the tag team and Bianca Belair is a face also strengthens Asuka's character more. Well, this is actually a really great question, because actually, judging on things earlier when I was asked about the babyfaces, stable and stuff, actually I didn't mention any female members, and Retribution has female members. I mean, we could actually get to a situation here where, if this is saved for Survivor Series, we could get our first ever Survivor Series match where we have, Retribution having both male and female members of their Survivor Series team, with, the WWE team having female wrestlers in amongst their team as well. And Asuka, of course, is the Raw Women's Champion. So if you're going to have something that involves the women's stable members, it makes so much sense for Asuka to be the one involved here. If she needs someone on her side, maybe Bianca Belair is the next bet because of the fact she's a babyface. But yeah, I'm going to answer your question with a big hell yeah, because Mia Yim, this is going to help elevate her, and she's seen as potentially the leader of this stable at this particular point. Why wouldn't she go for the Raw Women's Championship? Why wouldn't she go for Asuka? Mercedes Martinez, why wouldn't they? They're compelling, great matches, something that Raw would really benefit from. Because at this particular moment, I'm not knocking the Raw Women's division, but I would turn around and say that these women would help elevate it and take it to the next level. And they would really give Asuka a feeling of that she could drop that championship, because right now, if you've seen my predictions for tonight's Clash of Champions, she's not dropping that belt to Zelina Vega, in my opinion. And I don't think anyone thinks that belt swapping at this point. I don't see Peyton Royce winning this belt at this particular time. In fact, if there's a draft, I can see Peyton moving to SmackDown. I think that would benefit her more for her championship aspirations going forward. And yeah, so for that, Mia Yim and I think Mercedes Martinez, I think it's a great shout you make. And if we're going to have that stable, it needs female members. Asuka's the one. She's definitely the one to be in there for that. I think that she would make the most logical sense going forward. And if you want to throw another one in there just because it evens it out on the female side, Bianca Belair I think would be as well going for them as well, because it gives her TV time. She's expected that push. She gets arguably a big push already being put in there with Retribution. So yeah, I'm well on board with this. I think this makes a lot of sense. Just to finish things off on that question as well, I mean, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are the tag team champions, and I suppose Mia Yim and Mercedes Martinez might go for those tag team championships as well, so that could be another option that could happen. It certainly would give some depth to that tag team division that's desperately needed as well, and of course with the 2 members of Retribution, I think that would help as well, so that could also be something that could link into that Survivor Series match, so I won't rule that out either at this particular stage. So I think that actually could be the more likely early destination for this, and maybe Asuka could be someone they could go for after thinking about this more. Noob and Co. Our next question is now, who will Ronda face when she returns, Charlotte Flair or Asuka? Do you think the Raw Women's Championship deserves to be on the main card at Clash of Champions? And what are your thoughts of Alexa Bliss being controlled by The Fiend? Great questions. Let's start off with Clash of Champions. Of course, that is tonight. Yes, it should have been on the main show. Would you have seen the Universal Championship or the WWE Championship on the kickoff? No, you wouldn't. So I believe that the Women's Championships should have been on the main show. They are presented as a World Championship. I think they've done this to protect Zelina Vega. Perhaps maybe they feel that they should have put her in this position perhaps a bit too early, and it's an idea of protecting as well. Maybe less people would see her if they were watching the main show. Not as many watch the kickoff, so her losing here won't be seen as big of a drawback. But still, I'd have put it on the main show regardless, just my personal opinion. As for Ronda Rousey, would she return to Raw or would she return to SmackDown? That is the big key question there, because she was on Raw previously. Raw obviously wants the help with the ratings, but if Ronda was to come back, I'm pretty sure Fox would want her on their show. So I don't know where she's going to go or who she's going to face. I can see both of those being potential options. I see her going for the championship. Whoever is the champion, that is who Ronda Rousey will face. So if Asuka is still the champion, I think she goes for Asuka. If it's someone of Retribution, she goes for Retribution. If Charlotte Flair has made her return and she is the champion, I can see it being her. I think it all depends who is the champ. As for Alexa Bliss and, of course, the relationship with The Fiend, I am loving the direction of the storyline. I think it's awesome. I love the fact that she's been compelled now with The Fiend, just hearing his name. The fact that it even went on Booker T's podcast show that he's got going on. I thought that was pretty cool as well, that she just was possessed there as well. The character, it never goes. And I think that that's really cool to see. I think that we need to see more of this, where these superstars are continuing when they're outside of the ring, if there's something like this going on, that they play into it. Because I mean, when you see him just at home, Alexa Bliss with Larry, you just see, oh, it's normal Alexa Bliss. But as soon as The Fiend is mentioned, boom, she's straight in that trance. And when she comes out of it, she's unaware, she's nonetheless. I do think there's one minor thing I'll give a small critique to, and that was on SmackDown this week with a match with Lacey Evans. The fact that before ad break, she went in the trance, but then when she came back from the ad breaks, she was still being beaten up by Lacey Evans. I preferred to have not seen that. I'd have preferred it to have just been the once. But I understand that WWE probably was a bit worried people might switch off in between ad breaks to something else. Lord knows why. Because Alexa Bliss for me right now is probably one of the best storylines in WWE. But the fact that they took over the Amway Center with the Zoom screens and stuff, I thought that was really awesome and very well done. The fact that she snapped as well, I just love the way that the whole thing played out. And then just to finish things off very, very nicely, the stare back at Roman Reigns, the fact that the Fiend has that much possession over that she can stare a hole into Roman Reigns and that championship. It just shows you that's where the direction is going to be going after Clash of Champions. And this is much better than the Walrus in the Firefly Funhouse. Keep me away from that Funhouse. I'm interested in the Fiend and Bliss and that relationship, that storyline pushing in with Roman and Heyman going forward. I want to see more of Fiend versus Roman. I don't want Bray versus Roman. For me, the Firefly Funhouse is getting stale, it's getting old, but the Fiend character still feels special, and I think we need to see how that's going to go in towards its babyface run or its tweener run. I think I prefer tweener, and how it's going to use Alexa Bliss going forward. And I think that, I was really buzzed with SmackDown. I don't have any predictions at this point, but I want to know what happens next. And I think that that's a great sign when WWE is doing something right. SmackDown, for me, at the moment, is clearly the A show. It's the show I most look forward to every single week at the moment in wrestling in general, because it's got a great blend of wrestling, but also it's got a great blend of the storylines. And I like to be sports entertained. I'm guilty of that. I'm really enjoying where it's going, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. Straight as Josh with the next question now for us now. With Pete Dunne being the special ref for Noam Dar versus Alexander Wolf next week, I have an idea. Let's hear that idea. Noam attacks Dunne after a loss as Pete snaps his fingers this week. This annoys Dunne and he snaps, leading to an in-ring return. What do you think? Josh, I'm going to get straight to it. I love it. I couldn't book it better myself. I wanted Pete Dunne desperately to be in the Heritage Cup, and it looks like that's not going to happen. I thought that maybe he would have been attacked during this. That would have made him the 8th member on that. And just to have a little side note, the draw, by the way, was done very well. I really enjoyed the draw, and I don't see why WWE don't use opportunities like this more often on Raw and SmackDown. They really could. If they have a tournament, why not do a draw? Why not do something? It's like, as you know, some of our American viewers may not have this connection, but as a big soccer football fan, it's always football. The ball is round for me. But you get the FA Cup draw. You get where your team is going to be drawn, and it's so exciting to watch the draw and the balls be selected and see where your team's going to be and who they're going to be facing. WWE could do that more. I think that they could. It's an excuse to use up TV time. I think it's a great asset, and I think they should do more of it. I think that this was very successful, the way it was done with the characters involved and how it had that Dunne and Noam Dar tease. Because, like you say, he's going to be involved with that match next week. We've got a triple threat match for now, who the wild card is going to be, unless Dunne somehow makes it the Fatal 4-Way and he faces Noam Dar then in the final of the Heritage Cup. It's the only way I can see that going otherwise. But I love your idea of Noam Dar losing, taking it out on Dunne, and they have a match going forward. I think that would be awesome. I want to see Pete Dunne involved in NXT UK, and I think your idea, sir, it's fantastic. I like it. Shout out to This Week in Metropolis. In fact, you can find me on there this week. I'm going to be on the show this week for This Week in Metropolis. They're going to be dropping on Wednesday evening, of course, in UK time. It'll be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, all the good ones via Anchor, and as well as that will be involved on their YouTube channel as well. So go and find it, This Week in Metropolis, give them a subscribe, and you can look out for me later this week. But of course, Studio 7 from This Week in Metropolis was on This Week in Wrestling this week as well. Go and check out that podcast, which is available for you now. It's on the YouTube channel as well, so make sure to go and check out This Week in Wrestling, featuring myself and, of course, and Studio 7 from This Week and Metropolis. But they have a question. Let's get a question out there. If you could pick a wrestler from each WWE brand to turn face and heel to give them a fresh direction, who would it be? Great question there for you. I'm going to start off with Monday Night Raw. I'm going to go with Kevin Owens. It's going to be my first pick for that one because KO for me, I think he does his best work as the prize fighter, as the heel. I think he's just great on the mic. He can play both roles really, really well. But I feel with KO, he gets lost as a babyface. I think he does his better work as a heel. And I like the fact that when he's a heel, he is almost like a badass heel. He almost, when he was that prize fighter, you know, he power bombed Machine Gun Kelly off the stage through a table when he recently debuted at that point in 2015 on Monday Night Raw. He went straight for John Cena. He was someone who wasn't going to wait in the line. He was going to cut the queue to get what he wanted. And I miss that KO. That KO was in NXT. He came to Raw and he was booked so well for the first sort of 12 months of his run. And I've missed that since. And he won the Universal Championship, had a great run with that. I want to see KO get back to that position. So for me, I want to see that gimmick with KO in that position of the card. And I think that those two together could work if KO was to turn heel. So Owens would be my choice on Raw. On NXT, we've spoke about it already. Undisputed Era, for me, would be the ones that need it most. I want to see them turn babyface. Adam Cole, particularly, has faced everyone as a heel. The only thing for him left to do is to go babyface if he's going to stick around in NXT. So for me, I would like to see that majorly happen. I think Adam Cole as babyface, opens new opponents, new alleyways, new doorways for him, and I think that certainly would be something I would like to see. SmackDown, I'm going to cheat. I've got two. Technically, I have two, a second one for NXT, but I can understand why they've not done it, and I will talk about it very quickly. Dexter Lumis, I would like to see eventually turn heel, but I don't want to see it in the short term, because I think the character can be one-dimensional as a heel, and I think that is why, although it's natural to have that character as a heel character, I think that's why they've gone the babyface route, because I think they feel that they've got more mileage with him as a babyface, so that's why I think they've done that. Bronson Reed could be another one in time as well that I think could be beneficial for a heel run, actually, because of the fact that he is someone that I think has got the look, but he just feels a bit too nice at this moment. I think if he was to turn a bit nasty, I think he could elevate himself up that card a little bit more. SmackDown then, let's talk about it. Sami Zayn needs a face turn for me. I love Sami Zayn as this whiny heel that he can do. He plays the heel so well, and I think when Sami first turned heel, I think a lot of people questioned whether this would work for him, but he's done really well with that heel character. But I remember Sami in NXT, and I just thought to myself, back in the day, his journey, he always was the guy that had that big loss, but when he benefited. He always got over in defeat and was that person that could push himself up the card and eventually become NXT champion. And he got himself so over. And he always just felt, I want to say Shawn Michaels-esque back then. I really felt myself that with Sami Zayn at that point. He was someone that's going to go to the main roster and would be a big deal and could be someone who could become WWE champion. And it's just really gone wrong for Sami on that time in the main roster. He's been booked goofy and weird, and I just want to see Sami Zayn as the NXT Sami Zayn. So for me, I think that it would be great to see him go back to that babyface run. I think that he's got the potential to really go far with it, and I just feel he'd probably look less homeless than he does right now with his current rig attire. So I kind of want to see Sami have that change. I feel that Sami Zayn's had a good run as a heel, but he's been a heel now for at least 2 to 3 years, I'd want to say now. I think it's time he goes back to babyface. I think that it certainly would be a nice fresh change for him, for superstars to face, and for his character. Just to turn heel, just to finish it up on this one, Nikki Cross. I think that she's just a little bit too crazy as a babyface, but not in a good way. I want to see the crazy psycho heel of Nikki Cross. I think that side would work really well. I'd like to see her go on the dark side along with Alexa Bliss. I know that right now they're probably going to do a rivalry with it first, but I said this on a previous video, that what if there was dynamic was that the Fiend kind of was heelish, but actually Nikki Cross was actually a character that was involved in amongst things that we didn't see now and was helping to have got the Fiend to, have that mind control over Alexa Bliss. I think that would work really well in the dynamic there and to really build that sort of, Fiend style stable with female members as well, which I think is really fresh, by the way, to see both genders in stables in modern WWE. I think it's really cool to see that, actually. It's one thing I will give a big plus to Retribution, as we've spoke about enough in this video already. Yeah, looking at it, I think that Nikki Cross would be someone that could really benefit. I really enjoyed her sanity work, and again, it almost goes back to NXT matches with the likes of Asuka when she was involved with sanity. I just thought that her psychotic character worked a lot more. It just feels almost she's a bit like a comedy character now as a babyface, and I want to see that more serious psycho side of Nikki Cross. I think depending on what they do with the draft, her and Asuka could recapture that rivalry from a few years ago, and I think it would be really exciting to see. I remember they had a great last woman standing match, and I think that they could go back to sort of elements like that, and I think Nikki Cross would really benefit from going heel, but maybe she'd probably stay on SmackDown at this point. As we've mentioned, Retribution, they have the likes of Mia Yim, Mercedes Martinez on that side of Raw, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax. They've got a lot of heels, so maybe she would benefit staying on SmackDown and being that heel. Maybe eventually she can have a feud with the babyface Sasha Banks, when I imagine she'll come back and probably win that SmackDown Women's Championship. Dan the Man Williams now, Mr. DWE, go and check him out on YouTube now. Do you think that WWE could go to other countries and perform in front of live crowds in different places where Corona is less prominent? For example, New Zealand, who has very low cases, so they could throw shows out there. Well, I think it's dependent. I mean, I'm not too up on where with America, where they are able to travel to or not able to travel to. Not with New Zealand either at this particular point. But I suppose there is an argument with lower cases that maybe they could want to do that. It depends on how those countries want to deal with it, whether they want to invite people from the United States in, where the cases are probably higher at this particular point, particularly with WWE as well. It's had issues with cases in and amongst NXT and their roster previously, so I wonder if that would be a sign of caution from countries to do that. But it's something I wouldn't rule out. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, WWE have a 2-show-a-year deal with Saudi Arabia, which I'm not sure what the situation is with them at the moment either. But certainly Crown Jewel is something that you would get around this time of year. I wouldn't be surprised to see WWE go and do a show or two there in the coming months. I wouldn't be surprised if they were to try and branch out. There are rumours that WWE want to start branching out and start doing shows in and amongst America again, and start doing the travel schedule there rather than just being at the Amway Center. So it's going to be interesting to see what WWE are going to do. I think they want to start branching out in the next few weeks. I can see that they want to start doing things of where they can eventually hopefully get fans back in as well. I know they're going to keep an eye on the NBA and the NHL over the next coming months as well to see how they deal with the situation. I think Royal Rumble is the key time they want fans back in amongst the American side of things, but to go and do shows somewhere else that they could potentially have fans, it's not something you would rule out at this stage, so we'll have to wait and see what they will do. But at this particular moment, I think it's a time will tell situation. Next question comes from the Demo God, the Painmaker. Who is the right person to take the belt from Jon Moxley? Sorry, Justin Roberts, butchered that. Yeah, we have this question, I think, every time that, every couple of months on this channel at the moment, because Jon Moxley is a great champion for AEW, but of course, eventually, he needs to give the rub and give someone that moment to carry the belt going forward. Of course, there will come a point where his championship reign has gone too long and it needs to be given to someone before it feels stale. Jon Moxley's done a great job. I thought MJF was the guy that was going to do it. I thought he was the right guy to do it. I still think he is probably the right guy to do it, but MJF should have that moment in front of fans, really. It is a moment now he's lost. The next time they do that, it's got to be in front of a crowd. It's got to be to the point then where he wins it and everybody hates it. It's got to be done to that point. So in the meantime, who can you do it for where it makes sense to change that belt and it's not going to harm anyone and not take that moment away? Kenny Omega is the one for me who I'm going to pick here, because Kenny Omega is on a slow burning heel turn right now. He is letting Hangman Page do all the work in the singles ranks. He could have had 2 tag team matches with Hangman and said, no, I'm not interested. I've done my tag team run. I was there for a short time. I was there for a good time, not for a long time. It's now time to get back to the singles ranks. This storyline is still the best storyline in wrestling, and the fact that Hangman is now picking up victories in the singles division while Omega is watching from the sidelines, it almost feels that Omega has said, I'm going to come back in when the time is right. The time is clearly going to be right when Hangman is near that point of where he is going to get to win the top 1 or 2 contenders for that championship, and Omega is going to come in and bam, he's going to take Hangman out. He's going to get that victory. He's going to push himself not just in the top 5 but compel himself straight to #1 spot, and I think he will be the right person to take that belt right now off Jon Moxley. Next couple of questions now coming from Paul Perry, asking for us now. Deonna Purrazzo, Charlotte and Bayley have won 3 awesome Iron Woman matches. If these 3 were to compete in the first ever 60-minute Iron Woman match, who do you think would win? I think it comes down to who's booking it, personally, because of course WWE have had the history of making Charlotte Flair win a lot of matches, so I think that she would probably be a favourite in this. She certainly would be someone that would take the lead. All 3 are currently heels, so it would be an interesting dynamic. All would look to take shortcuts in this match as well, so that would be quite interesting. I probably, at the moment, I'd say I'm a bigger fan of Deonna Purrazzo of all 3, so I would be rooting for Deonna. But I think that Charlotte Flair potentially could be the one. But looking at the last year's records of booking in general over all 3 companies, Bayley has been SmackDown Women's Champion now for nearly a full calendar year. She finds ways to win. She always escapes with a victory. So to give an official answer, I'm going to go for Bayley. Is going to be the winner of who I would book to win it, because she just seems to be the one that finds the way to win each and every time. One more question in from Paul Perry. Also, if Jordynne Grace and Deonna Purrazzo were to compete in a 3rd match, which I need, and I need it as well, what do you think it would be? I'd want a ladder match, since I don't think it's ever happened for the Knockouts Championship. Good point. I don't recall it either. I know that Gail Kim and Terence Farrell, way back when they're having their feud, I'm not sure Championship was involved, but they definitely were involved in some form of ladder match, maybe Full Metal Mayhem. Someone please let me know that in the comments below, what kind of match that was, and if it was for a championship. But it's certainly something that hasn't happened very often. So I actually, not to take the easy option here, but I'm going to agree with you. I think you're spot on, because it's not something that's happened so often. It would feel quite fresh, and it really plays into the storyline of these 2 characters. It's something that I've loved about these 2 wrestling. They've had great matches. We've had the technical wizard of Deonna Purrazzo against the powerhouse of Jordynne Grace, and that this match works perfectly into both if you were to do it again. Deonna Purrazzo, as we said, technical master here. She could injure an ankle or a leg, or take out the arm of Jordynne Grace. It really, makes it so hard for Jordynne to be able to climb that ladder, go and reach and grab that belt, where at the same time Jordynne Grace will just pick up the ladder like a powerhouse and just keep whacking Deonna Purrazzo until she's knocked out and she can't get up to get the championship anymore. I think it's the perfect shout. I think it's the perfect stipulation if that match was to happen for a 3rd time. And please, Impact, make it happen. That's the match stipulation to do it. I think you're right. I think spot on. I think we need to have Deonna Purrazzo, Jordynne Grace one more time for the Knockouts Championship in a ladder match. Last question this week coming from Thomas, asking, do you like the Bella Twins? Well, this one could be a bit controversial, couldn't it? I'm going to say yes. I don't see what's not to like about them personally. They've been in WWE for a long, long time. Of course, they're now, often doing their own thing as parents, as mothers. But when they were around, they did some great stuff in WWE. The twin magic was quite fresh at the time, having that gimmick going on. Nikki Bella had a great, long, lengthy championship reign. And she massively improved in the ring as well. I know Brie had a few suspect moments towards the end of her run, but I think that these two, they brought star power to WWE. They were certainly interested from a casual standpoint, from a market outside of the wrestling bubble. People were interested in the Bella Twins, and they brought more eyes to the product. Whether it was watching, Total Bellas, whether it was Total Divas. I mean, they're not programs that I've checked out or watched, but at the same time, they've brought people that have gone in and gone, I'll check that out, I'll give that a go, and they've turned around and said, I like this, let's check them in the ring and watch them in wrestling and become fans of wrestling, and that's a great way to make new fans. So I think that the Bella Twins have done a lot. They were always popular when it comes to movie awards and music awards. I mean, watching multiple times them handing out awards and being a part of it. They were something that had an it factor, and I think for that they were golden for WWE. So yeah, I mean, looking at it from that perspective, yeah, I was a fan of the Bella Twins. I can't say that I ever had an issue with them, to be perfectly honest. I think there was a time where Nikki had that championship for a long time, and it was great to see that we had the likes of, I think back in 2015, that time where we had the women's evolution start, because of the fact that they weren't being given their opportunities of matches for more than a couple of minutes, and perhaps you could argue that we weren't really getting the competitive matches that perhaps was capable of Nikki Bella at the time. But when Charlotte Flair came in, great match. Ronda Rousey, great match. Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, the list goes on and on. So I turn around and say, no, I was a fan of the Bella Twins. I think that, if anything, I think it would have been awesome if they were around now. I think that they would have added more depth to the women's division to what we currently have, and I think they would continue to have great matches today. But that's all for me here this time here on AskSCW, here on SCW, the wrestling channel. Thank you for watching the video. Please drop a comment here in the comments section. It's fun to interact. Let me know your thoughts on the topics we've discussed here today on AskSCW. Keep an eye out on the channel as well. NXT TakeOver predictions will be dropping on Thursday. This Week in Wrestling will be dropping on Friday. I'm sure there'll be a video or two dropping before as well. I started doing the Raw preview once again, so that will be on Raw tomorrow. Potentially we'll be touching on Clash of Champions as well, maybe giving my review for the show as well. So lots to keep an eye out for. Maybe like, share, make sure to subscribe, maybe hit the bell as well. You can be updated when each and every video is dropped here on the YouTube channel. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a great day. I'll see you next time here on YouTube.com. Take care.